Welcome to the Vincier Project, an H-Hour production where we help people become more skilled, more competent, and more brave when they're facing the most difficult circumstances of their life. I hope you enjoy our podcast. Round two, we'll try to do it again. I think this podcast thing is going to be super fun and incredibly frustrating at the same time. There's so many cables, wires, logins, plugins. The lighting is not the same. Aunt Jamie's going to be pissed about that, and that's okay. It's part of the skill acquisition, and it's going to demonstrate the growth curve of the actual production of creating and delivering a podcast. For today, man, we're just going to talk about H-Hour Counseling. Like, what is it? Who are we? What do we do at H-Hour Counseling? Who do we serve? How do we serve them? And the nexus, I briefly shared it in the first episode, which is how did we come about with H-Hour, and how did we know that was going to be our thing? Well, we didn't know, and me and my wife, when we started it, we had no idea what it was going to become. We just knew we needed an EIN and an LLC to start, because professional counseling is a wide and deep field, and helping professions in general. What I have found teaching grad school for counseling students the last 2 years is there's clearly a divide, and really maybe it's thirds, right? Is a third of the students will go forward and be incredible administrators in community mental health and small businesses, in government, in hospital settings, and they'll be administrators, they'll be managers, they'll take on leadership roles along the way, and they'll be rewarded for such. Yet they may not enjoy or possess the requisite skills to be a phenomenal clinician, therapist, or counselor. And then there's a third in the middle that will kind of do both and bounce back and forth throughout their career and hit a little bit of both when the time is right for what they need, depending on what they're doing and who they're serving. And then there's going to be people that are going to be practitioners of the thing we call therapy and engaging with humans. I trend towards the practitioner of therapy. That is my preferred work at this point. It's that one-on-one or small group interaction of harnessing those difficult things known as thinking, feeling, and behaving, and what that looks like in our lives. And so for H-Hour Counseling, as it's grown, Brooke and I are at this point partners in the business. And we just made this wonderful transition over to an S Corp. We're going to open up in the next 2 years by 2028 to start funding and sourcing the vision and what that looks like. But we're not there yet. And we're still building that really strong foundation, which has taken 3 years of our time and attention. So H-Hour is the brand in and of itself, and that is Vince's thing, right? Think like any logo that represents something, right? It's symbolic. It's a standalone thing. It doesn't need words. What's really exciting though is we flip it around, right? And we bring on Brooke, and since then we've started to bring on different practitioners of counseling and or social work, right? Because when somebody graduates in one of those programs, they're required to accumulate quite a bit of time practicing underneath somebody else's flagpole before they can go out in the world and work. So Brooke was my clinical supervisor. And if you think about it as like a sports thing, right? And like a coaching tree, everybody coached underneath somebody beforehand. And at this point, Brooke has a legit series of people that have worked underneath her for supervision that are incredibly successful in all of those settings and backdrops I mentioned before. I am one of many people she's impacted in our field. And for me, she just signed off on me being able to do my supervisory stuff, right? And so what a huge moment. 8 years later, her and I were kind of laughing when I first walked in her office. And I was still shedding some of that old identity and some of the old behaviors of what the military version of Vince looked like, moving into the softer, kinder, gentler version. Equally as intense though, right? But not quite as intense to the point that I'm meeting all situations with that degree of impact, because it doesn't work in the helping professions. It actually can be counterproductive. So Brooke and I, we sat down, we started penciling out, engaging and measuring how many locations is it going to be, what kind of services are we going to deliver, and what are we going to do? And I think the most important thing for today's episode is we'll talk briefly about what happens when you engage with an H-Hour therapist. And the best part of it is it's really sequenced exactly like this. Is that first session will be a biopsychosocial assessment. Take a look at all the biological factors, all the psychological factors, and all the social factors that led to this person reaching out to us, now being on session either on the computer or live in the flesh. Here is my observation since doing this for a while. Nobody walks through the front door of H-Hour looking for H-Hour counseling on a winning streak. At this point, I feel relatively safe saying that. And the wide range of things we help serve people with could be anything from post-traumatic stress to social anxiety, phase of life, career development, anxiety, depression, mental illness such as bipolar disorder, schizoaffective, and a whole host of other issues that people can face psychologically and socially. What happens in that process, that first session, we do that and we give a little bit of homework. Hey, think about the one or two things you think that I can help you with when you come back. And so whether it's myself, Brooke, Rachel, Elena, or whoever else has worked for us and the other people that are working for us, that's how we start it. It's just build a little bit of rapport and a culture of respect. But the second session, we're sitting down and we're identifying the very specific interventions and things that somebody wants to work through. Meaning, hey, Vince, I'm struggling with social anxiety. Well, in response to that, I will offer a good faith estimate of 6 to 8 sessions and suggest that, hey, we can see a decrease in the symptoms that you have found with social anxiety within that prescribed amount of time. We'll use a wide range of interventions and therapies to achieve and accomplish that, but it has to be hyper specific. So, for example, if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm struggling with social anxiety, and then they roll out a laundry list of other issues, it's that client's responsibility to identify one thing that they think they can work on in therapy. It doesn't mean that the other ones aren't important. It just means right now those things are a priority. So by the end of the second session, there's a treatment plan with a goal or two and some objectives to support that. And then our provider has declared, hey, we are going to use this clinical intervention to help support you in that. So social anxiety, you're looking at some cognitive behavioral therapy, rational motive behavioral therapy, to kind of take a look at some of these things, help people start to develop the skills required. Complex trauma, well, that's closer to 12 to 16 sessions, and you're looking at cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure therapy, or a whole other host of interventions that I may not be trained in. But if we don't have a provider on staff that is trained in it, we will help you find that provider. That is our responsibility to you, right? It's just the right thing to do, in my opinion. By that third session, we've hopefully transitioned from a culture of respect and therapeutic alliance, right? And it's trust, right? At that point, the client should be able to state is that I trust that the HR therapist is going to do exactly what they said they were going to do, right? And in that storyline, as that person starts to develop a little bit of that self-efficacy, making their appointments, being there on time, doing the things that are required as part of the treatment plan, that allows us to get to the point that people think therapy is hinged upon. And it is, but it takes a little while to get to that. Is our responsibility is to ask that really, really, really difficult or direct question to a person when they're struggling with something. And a lot of times it can be related to very sensitive things. The truth of the matter is, any good counselor, social worker, or medical professional for that matter is going to be direct when it comes to that particular point. So once that therapeutic alliance rapport has been established, session 3, 4, 5, 6, the responsibility of the provider is to ask those direct questions that nobody's going to ask at the workplace or within the family system or on the bar stool that somebody might be hiding out on, avoiding or accommodating to the world. Usually what happens is people's therapeutic alliance rapport gets stronger and people start to take ownership of being able to say yes or no or decline answering questions. And that is really a big tipping point for somebody on their healing journey. So if you want to get a better look at what we do and how do we do it, part of the storyline or narrative for Brooke and I is each month we try to be super generous and make a donation to our local not-for-profits, sports teams, veterans interest. And then we ask whoever on the team is outperforming their position, hey, where do you want to make a donation to this month, right? And sometimes it's for the puppies, sometimes it's for the turtles, but typically it's for other human beings on their journey and adventure, overcoming some things, going through some things, competing a little bit. Maybe sometimes it's health related, right? And I think for us, it's whatever is important to us that season is where we like to be generous. Part of that generosity is the pro bono work. And for Brooke and I, we made a decision a long time ago for ourselves is, there is no sliding scale at H-Hour. There are alternative payments, but for us to deliver and be true to our word is twice a year, we deliver a free training. There's continuing education units for the social workers and counselors that need them. It's a good exposure for students if they need that exposure and that experience, other colleagues and professionals. And we open it up to the public for maybe somebody's a youth coach, maybe somebody works in a gym. This year, we're doing our second run, right? We did it in the fall. It was incredibly successful. We're doing it in the fall again here at Stockton and Manahawkin. The title is The Apprenticeship of a Likeable Human. Brooke and I agree in a lot of our research, our writing, and our work is that window between 12 and 14 years of age, if we can get that right, it's that second window that's incredibly important. Much like 0 to 3 years of age is, hey, I got to teach love and I got to teach forgiveness. I got to learn love. I got to learn forgiveness. Well, 12 to 14, we got to start learning how to say no, right? And saying no to a lot more things than we potentially know at that point in time. Meaning, how do we keep children from wandering in their adolescence into negative situations and creating some of those negative feedback loops? It's all teachable. And a lot of it, I would say, is this: it's the modeling, the mimicking, and the mentoring. And nobody has it all figured out. Yet, I would say clinically and personally, the more a 12 to 13, 14, 15-year-old is saying no to things that aren't serving them and learning how to develop that competence and confidence, the better served they're going to be at 24, 34, and 44. And typically, the first no is usually the most difficult. It gets much easier after that. And I say that from experience in my own story, which will be for another podcast. So yeah, May 14th at Stockton and Manahawkin, Brooke and I will be doing some of our pro bono trainings, delivering to other social workers and counselors, mental health professionals, some students, and hopefully we'll get some participants from the local community and folks that are out there doing all the great stuff. Man, I think that's it for today. I think that is a glimpse into the inside of what we do at HR Counseling. We're here to serve people. No doubt, right? We accept insurance right now, Horizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Aetna. Otherwise, we're at a network and we can issue a super bill for insurance reimbursement if that's part of somebody's story. If somebody does need some help and they're like, hey, I'm between jobs or whatever, hey, for 2026, we're offering payment through Bitcoin for $125, whatever the value is of that Bitcoin, and then you're locked in at that rate forever. So we've had a few clients, whether they've had insurance or not, are like, what do you mean forever? Well, like, yeah, we're going to honor that. Brooke and I have access to the ledger. So if somebody comes back in 2045 and they're like, hey, going through some tough stuff, but I made a deposit on my behavioral health and mental health to lock in that rate of 125 USD, which will translate to whatever the Bitcoin rate is on that day. That's will be locked in the ledger. And that's what people will pay. But my light just went out. That means I'm supposed to end right there, or I didn't charge the light. And Aunt Jamie will give me some feedback on all that stuff. All the opportunities out there. HR Counseling is out there for you. You can find us at thehhour.com. You can directly reach out to me at Vince at the H Hour. You can find Brooke at the H Hour, and many other people. And if you're not sure where to get started on your mental health or your counseling or therapy journey, that's okay. Look, if you're on a winning streak, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to you, right? So, or if you just want to say hello or hi, right? That works too for me. So, hey, have a great day. Enjoy the week. I'll chat with you next week. Cheers.